Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Eve. It's yet another mom daily, which I think makes it the second or maybe even the third one in a row, and that's just unfortunate. Nobody really likes mom dailies, the variance is way too high. Some people find ways to go forward, some people don't. It all really depends, especially in some particular dailies, on just how lucky you get, and it just creates this unenjoyable atmosphere. But then again, there are these dailies and you have to suffer through them. Of course, you can just opt not to play, but I'm not the kind of player who dislikes mom dailies. I just think that you require a different mindset if you actually want to do well, and that's why I'm kind of making this video, to try and explain what you really need to think about when you tackle these dailies. But what's really great about maybe dailies that only go to mom is that you know that when you're playing certain characters, you're not really gonna struggle a lot, and especially with Eve, it shouldn't be that hard to actually get to boss rush just because she has innately high damage, and if you can kind of force yourself to maybe get a few hearts and then use that razor blade offensively in rooms to spawn your angry bird. I said angry bird again, I meant dead bird. Your dead bird, and then of course with the damage boost from your Whore of Babylon, also from the razor blade, you can actually deal with enemies pretty well, and you really don't need any, I would say very little DPS items in order to make it work. It does become tedious to actually fight with the base damage that Eve has against bosses, but then again, there is a chance that you're gonna get something that's gonna help you out, and in this particular case, at least we got Zit-Shot, and a lot of people that maybe really like Zit-Shot, it's kind of an underwhelming item, but still sometimes you do shoot an additional tier which slows enemies down, and that's particularly useful against bosses, and just because it makes it easier for you to actually dodge them, and you also just deal some additional damage. Something like double shot, maybe a bit less damaging, because I think that second Zit shot, or the second shot that you get from this item, isn't affected by your damage stat, but it's just something like a base damage upon that. But the other item that also helped us with our DPS is the cloak that gives you 3 black hearts. I knew what it was called. Ceremonial robes, that's the one. Ceremonial robes also gives a damage up and also 3 black hearts, and it's always exciting to find it in basically any situation, because not only do you get that damage up, but usually either you pay 1 red heart and you get 3 black hearts out of it, which is a pretty good position, or you pay 3 spirit hearts and you pay 3 black hearts for it, which means that you're not paying anything for it, or in some cases you're even upgrading your spirit hearts to black hearts. But maybe the most ideal position is just to find it in a secret room somewhere, or maybe in a curse room, because that way you're not only gonna get your stats boosted, but you're also gonna get a lot of health to go alongside that. And with a daily that goes to mom, I think it's very important to gain health early on, or at least find a way to generate health, because I think that makes it so it's much easier for you to trade that health away in a sacrifice room, and that's the reason why I picked up Relic. And obviously I could have rerolled Relic in that particular treasure room, because there were a lot of there was the reroll machine, and I had enough money and bombs to actually reroll it a few times, but I decided, or I thought, that it was gonna be better for me to pick up the Relic, and not even necessarily because I felt like I needed the Spirit Hearts, but just for the reason that it's a passive income of Spirit Hearts which I can leave on the ground, and just in case I would need them for the sacrifice room later on, I could go back and pick them up, and I hope that up until that point I would be able to max out and cap out my HP at 12 full hearts, and that would actually allow me to do what I wanted to do. Sadly, there was no self-sacrifice room in this particular run, so it would have been better for me to reroll it, but then again, in the average case, I think that it's still a good pickup, and just having enough health or enough spirit hearts to go around just helps you in a lot of different situations. I did use some of that health later on, and maybe that's what gave me my stopping power and helped me to find that last item which allowed me to really break the game. But maybe the most important part of this daily that I haven't mentioned yet, and it's in the title, and I'm not kidding when I say that this was the craziest seam that has ever happened to me. And I know a lot of people like to throw the word seam around a lot, and some people find, where's the seam, and you say, oh, you get the shovel and that's it, or maybe sometimes you say you get the AWAS room from a room back and that's it. Obviously there is something to that in this particular case, because I got room back, you can expect me to get an AWAS room, and for the matter of fact I already have it. So that's how the seam. Something much crazier happened later on, which kind of I misplayed in some cases, but also got very lucky for that to work out. So when did that seam, so to say, start occurring? And I mention it now because this is the floor where everything kind of took a turn for the best. And so you can see that I'm kind of late, and just because this floor is relatively huge, I did miss boss rush. So I was in a very weird position where I had a 5 pip dice room, which means I want to take it to maximize my exploration bonus, but at the same time I was trying to make it to boss rush as fast as possible. I just decided at some point it's probably not worth my time and effort to go to boss rush. I would much rather do 5 pip dice room, explore the entirety rest of the floor, and I hope for a miracle to happen so I can find something like a Mama Mega. And I just thought maybe in this particular case, whenever you make a mistake like missing boss rush, you tend to really go in a position where because you made one mistake, it just leads to you making more mistakes. So I just thought I'm gonna keep a level head, I'm gonna think about what my next best course of action is, and that was definitely for me to stick with the Awas rune, took the 5 pip dice room, and hope that the next shop will contain something which will allow me to break the game in some extent. And of course what happened is I had one purchase rune, and I went into the shop, I re-rolled it, there was restock, I bought one item, and the next item in there was Mama Mega. That was stupidly lucky, okay? But it does get worse from here, or at least worse in the sense I get even luckier later on. So I pick up Mama Mega, obviously I do the 5 pip dice room. You can see I'm not using it immediately, and the reason for that is if there's a chance, or at least if there is another 5 pip dice room here, I want to use that first, and essentially I want to guarantee that there's no way for me to replay this floor over again, because if I had to use Mama Mega now, sure, I would get all the clear bonus, but if I had to use the 5 pip dice room first, that means that I would either have to find a way to teleport out of boss rush and then go to the 5 pip dice room, or just better yet, if I don't find the teleport card, that means I have to commit either to going boss rush or doing or not going to the 5 pip dice room. So that means I'm kind of wasting myself of that an additional 1000 points of exploration. So it's always a good idea to keep Mama Mega until the end, so you can use it just in that scenario where you know that when you use it, it's just for boss rush and you actually plan on doing boss rush on that floor. So that's basically the whole reason why I kept it. But there was a bit of a weird glitch here because I used it, but for some reason I still have it. I'm not sure what happens. I heard that it's glitched. This is the first time that it's happened to me. I didn't know, again, if this is maybe because I picked it up fast and just used it immediately, or maybe something else happened, but I have another use of Mama Mega. Obviously there's nothing I can do with it. It's definitely gonna help me in Womb 1 when I use it just to kill enemies in rooms, but besides that, I'm not really seeing on other values here, because we can't make it to harsh, and obviously even if you do go to the Womb 2, harsh can't open even if you do use Mama Mega. Otherwise I think that would be quite broken. Imagine going to the void on a run that goes to Mom. I think that would be pretty crazy. But so we did boss rush, we took the Awas rune, we went to Womb 1, we got kind of lucky with the 5 dice room to reroll that whole floor, so we got an additional point of exploration. So what's next? Well, you can see in this situation I had an Awas rune, and then I had another one. So I used one Awas rune on the depths 2, I went into the Womb 1, and then I used my Awas rune immediately here, and that was a mistake. What I should have really done is kept the Awas rune until the end of the floor. I should have explored the entirety of the floor, and then I would hope for something like a Yara rune to show up, or maybe even a blank card. And what I would do then is duplicate that Awas rune, so I would have an additional Awas rune for the Womb 2, which means that I would be able to get to Shoal then without repercussion. I still felt, even though I made this mistake, it wasn't a huge mistake, because if there was a sacrifice room here, I would definitely take it, because it's just much better, or at least I think it's better points-wise to go to the sacrifice room on Womb 2 as opposed to hoping that there was gonna be one on Shoal. So I thought it wasn't that bad, but there was also a pretty likely chance I'm gonna get another Awas rune, or maybe a blank rune, which is gonna turn out to be an Awas rune, and luckily that did happen, but that was definitely a mistake, especially because one of the blank runes was actually a Yara rune, so it was just a bummer. This is just something to keep in mind. Don't use your Awas rune if it's the only one you have, because you always want to duplicate it so you can carry the next one on the next floor with you, and in this case it would have definitely saved me the pain and just the struggle of trying to find that last Awas rune. But of course, like I said before, I do get even luckier and I do find that last Awas rune, and it does allow me to go to Shoal. And of course, when I go to Shoal, you might think that my luck has run out, but no, my luck is only just beginning. I'm kind of maybe over exaggerating a little bit, but I did use my Answers rune here just to see what the floor layout is, just to get an impression if there is a self-sacrifice room. There wasn't, which means I have other things to worry about. So you might be seeing that I'm carrying my Purchase rune around and my Temperance runes around and things like that, and you might be wondering where I'm going with all of that. Well, what I'm planning to do, you can remember that if you watch my dailies, and I do imagine that the majority of people who watch these dailies watch multiple ones, or at least that my core audience is the same, but nevertheless, you can use the Judgment card and the Temperance cards in the secret room, so you can play them, and then eventually you're going to get items out of them, and when you reroll them, you're going to get items from the secret room pool, and that would allow you to get some certain breaking items, something like a blank card, or in this case, I'm going for a Forget Me Now, and it was just that one last ditch effort, which I didn't really think about through. You can see that I use one Temperance card here, because at first I didn't really think about it, that I can actually do this, so I used it just as a way for me to damage myself, so I won't take the damage penalty, and I think it worked pretty well, but I should have definitely saved the Temperance card for the secret room, and then I just used my Judgment card, and I thought that was the only thing I had, but then I remembered, oh right, if I play the block bank long enough, there's a chance that something like a block bank or another item can show up from it, and then I can use that as another pedestal to actually guarantee or at least increase my chances of finding that Forget Me Now. So I'm just kind of collecting all of the items that I need to perform this break, so to say. So I'm gathering my Hierophant cards, I'm grabbing my Elgis cards, I'm grabbing my Purple Rune, and I just start basically going ham. And you can see that one blood bank machine was very cooperational, it exploded almost immediately, but the other one wasn't as nice, and I did go kind of deep here, and I was really committed to the strategy because I thought it was going to be crazy if it worked. And what do you know? I get a Forget Me Now. So this is where my luck runs out, sadly. There's not yet another sacrifice room here, which would allow me to break the game even further, and it's just one of those things which I feel like are such a huge stroke of luck that I imagine not a lot of people found it in the first place, but even if they did, it's still something that I feel like requires a lot of thought and knowledge about the game to actually pull off. So I'm kind of okay with breaking in this sense, because it really does require careful management of resources, even though in this case I didn't do the best job at it. Like I said before, I did make some mistake, but thankfully the RNG has rewarded me with yet more Avos runes than I can really help myself, and it did turn out to be this situation where I was able to perform all of these breaks, so to say, in order to get as far as possible. And obviously with a 5/5 dice room, another whole floor of depths too, I believe, or necropolis, whatever, it did allow me to get a huge exploration bonus, and essentially I did 8 total floors on a run that goes only to Mom, so that's pretty crazy, alright. The only thing that kind of kept me from having a really high score is the first, that I didn't spend a lot of time trying to break the game and trying to find something like a blank card, and I definitely think I could have done that, and the other part was just that I took a lot of down damage. If I were actually paying attention, you would notice that I think I got hit like 10 times in total for unnecessary reasons at all. Obviously, another part of it is that I had Ipecac plus Quad Shot, and that's just a recipe for disaster. You can see my damage penalty is ridiculously high, 7,000. I definitely could go with like 5,000 less points, and that would have definitely ranked me much better, but still I'm very satisfied with my score, even though you can see that my time is 23 minutes, even though the whole run actually did go on for like an hour. So it's one of those things that depends on how Isaac keeps time, so essentially it's gonna keep or track the time up until the point that you go to Mom, and for some reason that's the time that shows up in the end screen card. I'm not really sure why I decided to do it that way, but nevertheless, will it finish in a very decent spot in the top 10, I believe I was when I checked Greedbot, so let's say there were like about 10 cheaters, and at the end of the day I do definitely imagine I would be in something like the top 25 at least. I could have definitely been a lot higher. I think this was a very top 3 spot if I just didn't take so much dumb damage. It was a fun run, it was a very enjoyable one. I think it really put my brain cells to work, and I was able to use everything that I had to my advantage, and that just allowed me to have a really nice breaking run. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.